Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Talkin Kop. My name's Ashley. I'm here with my friends Chris and Kev, and we are here to preview the Brighton match this weekend at Anfield against our somewhat undefeated Reds, despite the fact that it doesn't really feel that way. So recently undefeated, I should caveat. It does not feel that way, but we did come away from that Inter game with a little bit of positivity and a little bit of a positive match reaction. So Chris, I'm going to come to you first. How are you feeling this week after, the tornado that was Mo Salah over the weekend and the little bit of the calm after the storm that was the Inter game?
Probably still sat going, I don't know what to expect. I don't know which Liverpool's going to turn up. Are we going to see the first 70 minutes against Leeds or the game against Inter? Or are we going to see the shit show that we saw in the last 20 minutes? It's just, that's the unpredictability. So, and Brighton are tricky. They're always, I think our record at home against Brighton's pretty decent. I think we've only lost one game at home at Anfield in the Premier League era. We've won the last two at Anfield 2-1. But they're just a pain in the arse to play. They're not going to do the low block, sit deep thing, which is probably a good thing for Liverpool, but they've got so much pace and danger out wide, and they're in pretty decent form. So, tricky game this, and it's going to be better than the last 3 o'clock game we did.
I mean, I hope so. I'm looking at their results right now. So, Kev, going back couple games, we have the draw against West Ham. We went over that in our ref watch. There was a very late equalizer there. They did lose in a crazy thriller to Aston Villa. So it was 4-3 to Villa. That was a goal fest. But they beat Forest. They beat Brentford. They drew against Crystal Palace, which we know is a tricky game. And they beat Leeds 3-0. So overall, they've got one loss in their last 6. Pretty good results so far. They have had a couple of clean sheets in there as well, and just lots of goals across the team. So, that being said, how are you feeling post Inter game, and how are you feeling kind of leading up to this match?
Well, they're on the same points as us. They're a few goals better than us, but they're on the same points as us. I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to it in a way. It's the end. It's the last game in this block of ridiculous amount of fixtures, and there's no real training going on. It's literally like play, recover, and we'll see tomorrow what the prognosis is to see how players came out of that Inter game, because it was literally like Ironman football. He made a few changes that he made, but the rest of them were just told to get on with it. I think it was you posted something about the running stats that were done in that game, and the amount of coverage
big running.
Yeah, big running in the game.
Yeah, I think 12 kilometers for Jones, and then in and around 11.5 for your standard Szoboszlai Verts. Even McAllister was up there as well.
Big time, yeah. And the thing is, the majority of those players are going to be asked to go again. So I'm looking forward to it, because I think Brighton are the kind of side that'll come out and give you a game. They'll be like Inter in a way, where they'll look to attack in their own way. They'll give you options, or they'll give you chances. And games against Brighton are always tight. We've got a good record, as Chris said, but most of the games against Brighton are the odd goal. You win them by the odd goal, and they're usually goals in them. I think the last 4, the side who scored first have lost. So it's kind of one of those games that there's always going to be chances, and you're never really out of it. And the way Brighton are, they've got injury problems as well, but they'll have had a week to prepare for this one, and they'll fancy the chances. Of course they will. They've got some really good players, some real talent in there. We'll all be probably watching to see how Baleba does, because I think odds are he's going to be one of the next ones on the rank to be moving.
He hasn't kicked on, honestly, since that that Man United we fell through. It hasn't quite been the same player. That moves still his head a little bit.
There is that, yeah, but he's one of these players that the cameras are going to be on him. Everyone, it's a 3 o'clock kickoff in the UK, but for the rest of the world, it's going to be the televised game that is going to garner most attention for obvious reasons, other than the match. It's going to be it's still 2 sides who play good football who are going to have a right go at it. So it'll be good.
David T's going 4-2 to Liverpool.
I mean, he can go early. I think he's just trying to kind of get the nerves out for his team this weekend. So I'm all for positivity, Davey. Chris, Kev talks a little bit about the players that they have. They have Sally March coming back. They have Milner coming back. They have Matoma coming back, and Tommy Watson coming back from injury. They, however, have just found out that their Greek player Simas, I think that's how you pronounce it. Simas, yeah. He is out with an ACL. So really, really unfortunate for him. Yeah. He looked like a really bright, just kind of a bright spark, a really, really smart signing.
He looked a typical Brighton signing, as in he'll go to Chelsea in 2 years' time for 50, 60 million. He's just one of those players.
I don't know. Out of that group, I think Matoma is probably the one that may or may not kind of get those minutes. He's obviously one that really likes to score against us. But, Kev talked a little bit about the strengths of Brighton. I was looking through some stats today, and, one of the things that stood out was the possession won in midfield. So across all of the teams in the league, Brighton comes first. Specifically possession won in the final third. So they have basically the most effective high press in the league. Another thing that really stood out was their successful long balls, and they have a 44.9% success rate of long balls. And as we know, that's something that Liverpool really struggle with. So we're talking high press and long balls combined, two things that we haven't really had great success with this season. So knowing those two stats, how are you kind of feeling about how we're going to match up with them? Do you think we're going to see more of the same diamond that we just saw at Inter? Do you think that we're going to shift back to something more akin to a, 4-3-3? What is your intuition telling you?
I think he sticks close to a diamond, partly because we haven't got that much flexibility and options, I would say, especially with the players missing. So
Chiesa is going to be back, apparently. So add him in as a potential winger. But
who's
otherwise,
that? Chiesa,
yeah.
I sort of feel this 4-4-2 down or 4-3-1-2, especially if the players are available, it probably plays to a lot of their strengths. Gets Isak and Ekitike on the pitch. You can place Szoboszlai or Wirtz as more of a 10, and then off the ball they go wide positions. I think it gets legs around Gravenberch and McAllister. I think it plays to Jones' strengths. And I think it gives us a bit of more of a solid base in front of that back four, which just needs that little bit of comfort. No Bradley this weekend because of his suspension. Listen, Joe Gomez coming in is absolutely fine. I'm not worried about Joe Gomez coming in. But I think you saw when Bradley came off the bench against Inter, just that little bit of, he's got more of a creative spark than Joe does. That's just his game. So I kind of feel that sort of helps us. Plus, I think you need to pack that midfield, because that midfield of Baleba and probably Gomez, that's a good midfield. And then in front of that, you're going to probably have Rudiger, who's doing really well. And then Welbeck has a decent record against Liverpool in terms of goal scoring wise. And then they've still got Gruder on the bench who comes off. And is it Hazelwood, who I like? I think he looks a talented player. The only concern for him is he just seems to pick up a lot of niggles or unfortunate injuries. But he looked a very good, versatile player. Hinchelwood, sorry, not Hazelwood. I'm thinking of the cricketer. Get me Hinchel's and me Hazelwood's mixed up.
It's interesting that you talk about the diamond, Chris, because Lewis Steele, who's one of the ones that's in around the press room, he came out and spoke today, and he said that the 4-4-2 diamond that the boss has employed as of late has also gone down well in the ranks, with players believing it brings the best out of several stars, and it also gets as many senior players into the 11 as possible. So
no wonder they like it.
What? Yeah.
No wonder they like it. It gets them. It picks the players who want to be picked.
Yeah,
players are going to come out and say that.
Yeah,
but I think it's interesting, kind of hearing it, spoken out loud to the media like that.
But if you think of the strikers we've got, there's going to be Isak and Ekitike, because they're the ones that are fit. But if Salah and Gakpo were available, there's nothing wrong with them playing in one of the front two positions.
I don't think Slot would play them in either of those front two
but
positions, to be completely honest.
If he stuck with 4-4-2 diamond, they could be your backup to play in one of those two positions.
Yeah, either that or sell him in January, both of them.
Yeah,
because if you're not going to play with wingers, get rid.
I don't think it's a long
buy two strikers.
I don't think it's a long-term solution because we keep getting linked to like Semenyo and all that. I think it's more of a needs must, but it's maybe a formation he's thinking horses for courses. You know, tough away games like the Inter one. Actually, 4-4-2 diamond works perfectly, but at home he may want to long-term go back to a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. You know, with more width and pace. But at the moment, the players are injured that we would one of those positions anyway. So I think it's a bit of both, really, isn't it? So
I think you got to look at who's available and who's in form and who's not in form. You look at who you got. You don't have a fit winger that you're prepared to use. We'll find out in the press conference tomorrow what happened today with because they're about to have had a sit-down meeting with Salah today.
Find out what's peace talks or whatever.
Well, whatever they want to call it. At the end of the day,
nothing's leaked though, was it? You'd by now. You'd have had something leaked out by now.
Whatever happens with that tomorrow, he'll be asked about that. 9:00 tomorrow morning is a press conference, and look, it'll be what it'll be. But if you look at the players who are available, if you want to play a 4-2-2 or 4-4-2 diamond, whatever they want to call it, if you want to play a 4-4-2, basically, then that's probably the best for what we have at the moment. Although the two strikers didn't really play like two strikers. They played so wide apart that there was no connection between them whatsoever. And the only change I would definitely like to see is Kerkez coming in for Robertson, purely and simply because you have to have especially at home, you have to have an out ball wide. You have to have someone who can get forward and put balls into the cross from a wide area. And we had it in the second half when Bradley came on. You saw the difference in it as an attacking outlet by having an attacking fullback as opposed to a more conservative one who's there to support. It made a massive difference. And also, what do you do with Florian Wirtz? He didn't start versus Inter Milan because, coming back from injury, hasn't really trained. He's using matches that he's played to gain fitness. Does he come back into the reckoning, or is what he's carrying, does that need to be managed? Yeah, Chiesa apparently was ill. He comes back into the squad, but I think that's about as far as he goes. I don't think he starts him. If he does start him, then one of the two strikers is going to get dropped out.
I think so.
So I'd love to see him one time down the road when Frimpong is available and when Kerkez is available. Play this diamond setup, but let the two fullbacks go and see what options you can create with Florian Wirtz in a 10, with three midfielders supporting from the middle.
Because in theory,
have real width on the outside, but you have to have your two strikers closer together.
Because in theory, with those two, if we had that option, you just tell Gravenberch to drop to his centre backs off the ball. It's a back three, and I wonder that's probably what they might like to do tomorrow if Kerkez bombs on, because you've got Gomez as a right back. It almost becomes a back three then anyway. So that gives you that little bit of a security blanket. Because Kerkez's best stuff is done going forward. That's his strength. So
I think I sent you guys. I sent you guys like an actual position map versus the way that they lined up, and it was actually really interesting because we're talking about Gravenberch dropping into the three. We know he's done that before, but if you look at the Inter game, that's actually not what happened. So Gravenberch actually stayed in the 6, and it was Curtis Jones that dropped kind of into that left-sided 3 at the back, basically. And it was really interesting to see him there because one thing about Curtis Jones is that he has the highest progressive passing stats of anyone in this league. Anyone in this league and also anyone in Europe. He is right up there. And one of the biggest problems we've had is Ibu getting targeted out of the back where basically everyone's saying, give the ball to Ibu. Ibu is not a progressive passer. But having Jones there as a secondary option, that gave Virgil options, and that gave us options out of the back. It also created protection. It made our center backs look a lot less exposed, and I think that's why they looked a little bit better. I think we said that Ibu had a better game. I think he just looked more protected. I think he looked less exposed, and I think having a true 6 that doesn't drop into center back. So the problem with Gravenberch dropping back is that he still leaves a giant hole in the middle of that midfield. But having Jones kind of play that fluid role where he can drop back, but Gravenberch can stay in the 6. I thought that was like a really interesting tactical decision that Slot made. And I thought it worked really well. And I think Jones, if he can stay fit, and it's always an if with Jones, he could be a really key solution for kind of fixing some of the problems that we have going out of the back, in my opinion. I don't know if you saw that, Kev, as well.
Big time.
Because for me, Jones stood out kind of head and shoulders above the rest in that game. And he looked like that was a system that worked for him.
It worked for a few of them.
Yes.
Him especially because of, some people call it confidence, some people call it arrogance. It can be a mixture of both. It can be both. But when he's on the ball, he looks supremely confident, and he looks like he has half a second more than what he actually has because he's very good at protecting the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He's good at drawing fouls as well, which you need to have in that position because you're going to get pressed. Brighton will look to press. They're an aggressive side. Young manager looking still, he's in his second season, I think. And they'll fancy it. Will fancy it coming to Anfield. They've got pace out wide. I'm looking at the lineup that FootMob are looking to give Brighton, and the Kuiper, they're having him as the left of a 4-2-3-1 in attack. He was brought in as a wing back. So whether it's a case that potentially they might play with a 5, I don't know. It all depends, I think, with them as to what players come back from injury and how fit they are, and how I really rate Matoma. I think Matoma is one of these players in the league that I think you'd just go out of your way to watch him if he's on telly. He's not going to ever be at a top flight side chasing titles or anything like that. But on the ball, he's really skillful, really quick, very intelligent. And I mean, he's what now, 29, something like that, 29, 30.
Yeah, he's in and around. He feels like he's so much younger because he was such a late breakout star onto the
Exactly, yeah. And they've got some talent as well. That Minta is one, and they got the experience of Danny Welbeck, knows how to play that lone striker role inside out, upside down. He'll pull onto Ibu and try to give Ibu as many problems as he can. And Rutter, they signed from Leeds, big money. Playing him now is more of a second striker, 10. He's not really a 10. He is a second striker. But again, it's a case of needs must for who's available to them. Max Weaver is one there. They've got him listed here as a right back. He's a midfielder playing at right back. He has played at right back for the last few games. So you'll be looking for whoever's playing on that side of the pitch, whether it's Ekatike more than likely, if we're playing with this diamond, to pull onto that side. And if Florian Wirtz starts, you expect Wirtz to be on that left-hand side as well. So trying to create space, I think, in this game is going to be key, trying to create overloads in places where you can hurt Brighton. But I think we need to be able to get ourselves into position to get our strikers involved in the game in the final third a lot more, whether that's through crosses, incisive passing, take your pick. You can be patient up to a point, but you have to have men in the box and you have to be prepared to put crosses in. And if Joe Gomez is going to be playing at right back, he's going to be playing at right back generally in a support role. So I think on the other side, you have to have a left back who's going to bomb on. But Curtis Jones, I think, whatever we do at the minute, he looks bang in form and an important player for us. Whether he comes in as a replacement for McAllister to allow you to play Florian Wirtz is possible if he wants to play a 4-2-2. With Szoboszlai and Wirtz as your more advanced central mids, with Gravenberch and Jones slightly deeper, which I think is probably going to be more than likely what we go with. And maybe Ekatike dropping into that number 10 role, allowing Isak to be an out-and-out 9. They play as a 2 like you'd see Brighton will play with a 2 with Welbeck and Rutter, where they're not really up together, but they're close by one being up and one being off. And Ekitike looks like he's really good on the ball and capable of doing that role where he can bring other players into play and allow Isak to try to get around Van Hecke and look to cause them problems that way.
Chris, I'm going to throw you some stats on Alexander Isak from the Inter game because, again, just looking at the heat map, looking at the passing network, Alexander Isak was not able to get involved in that match at all. So he had one shot on target for the entire game. He had 25 touches for the entire game, 2 of which were in the opposition box. So 2 touches in the opposition box for the entire game. He had no successful dribbles. He had no successful crosses. He was dispossessed twice, and he ran half as much as the rest of the team. So approximately 5.5 kilometers compared to 11 or 12 from the rest of the team. And obviously he's a forward. He's going to, maneuver differently and be asked to do different things. How do we get Alexander Isak into the game a little bit more, Chris? How do we make this happen? Because, it does look like Ekitike is able to kind of adjust to the system, but how do we get Isak into the game?
Crosses is the big thing. That's what he fed off. Low crosses and pace. So he could be the fox in the box, which is at the moment not the way we're playing. Everyone we're playing is quite slow, which doesn't play to his strength. His hold-up play against Inter was okay, but he lost it quite softly. I thought, actually, he pressed when he needed to press, but he's definitely not either used to it or he's nowhere near the level of fitness, because I think I said to you guys, for 40 minutes, he looked like he was blown out of his house. He generally looked knackered. And I think that was more, I don't think he's used to that intensity that he needs to get to. Now, maybe that's also the missing of a pre-season, but I don't know how much longer you could say the pre-season thing. At some point, he's also got to make himself available. I think the style of player that Ekitike is makes him easier to find because he's just naturally more mobile, drifts out wide a lot more, likes to drop deep to link play, and he has that explosive pace. So he's almost like an easier forward to find, which keeps him in the game. Although, interestingly, I don't think he touched the ball as much against Inter as I think you would think he did.
Like I said, 25 touches over the course of the whole game, 2 in the box. You talk a little bit about pressing. I mean, he won 2 out of his 6 duels. He had 2 ball recoveries. He had no blocks.
One of those ball recoveries was...
So he was there, and I feel like he looked better. He looks like he's improving. I don't want to discount completely the fact that he does look like he's improving, but I still feel like we are not getting the best out of Alexander Isak.
One thing I'll say about Isak, the only thing I wanted to add to that, do you remember that average pitch position that you sent us?
Mm-hmm. He was not playing as a striker. He was dropping deep, almost into the Szoboszlai role traditionally.
Yeah, exactly. So if that was his average position for the game, then it shows how much tracking back he was doing. Because to me, on the eye, he was up front quite a lot. So if the average position was having him as almost like where you'd be playing a 10, it shows how much tracking back that he actually did in that game. And I think that's probably half the reason why he was blown out of his backside. Because look, where he's normally playing across the front line, occupying centre-backs for the majority of the time, he's not really asked to be... Once the side has gone through that first line of a press, his job is kind of done at that stage. When he was at Newcastle, he was that luxury player that Salah has been for us. Mm-hmm. We'll get the ball to you. Don't bother coming back and wasting your energy in the final third because you're going to suffer for it. He's just not got that level of fitness in him at the moment. He'll try and he'll do, and it showed against Inter. He'd done what he could, but 60 minutes and he was toast.
I think if we were to play that system that you hypothetically talked about with Frimpong and with Kirkes running up either side, putting those direct, like those, the deep crosses, the ones that we used to see from Alexander Arnold way at the beginning of his career, where they'd go right to the byline and cross into the box. That I think he can feed off of.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel, so when I was watching that game and watching that formation, we had a conversation afterwards. We said, does this have legs? We talked a little bit about horses for courses, but for me, watching that was the first time that I felt like Slot put a team out on the pitch and a tactical setup out on the pitch that mirrored our squad, that played to their strengths in a way that everything else has felt very much square peg, round hole kind of situation. Chris, did you feel like that as well, where you kind of felt like I could understand based on the way that we recruited that this might be a way forward?
I think it was a setup that worked with who was available and what subs he would be able to bring on, because he was quite limited with his subs. I don't think with the players they bought in the summer, and the plan was to do this 4-4-2 diamond, I still think the plan is to have two fast, wide pace players. They just didn't get them in. Let's call it as we see it. You know, they didn't. They went into the season a winger light, and they went into the season centre back light. I do still think 4-3-3 is the way they want to go. I just think at the moment it's a little bit of just finding something that works. It could be that we just use this to the end of the season and then it's a regroup and rethink situation, or this is just something to get us through till January, which maybe if they are looking to bring people in January, that will then allow them to go back to the way they want to play.
I think it's more along the lines of stop conceding 10 goals in 3 games.
Does help.
I think
that does help.
That plays a role.
I genuinely think it's that simple. I think they went out after what happened against PSV and said, look, we have to stop the rot. We can't keep conceding. It was telling the comment that came out, you have to have 11 men behind the ball at times and they have to work. Mm-hmm. And since that game, our results in conceding, and it's not so much even the conceding, it's more from, I mean, we concede 3 against Leeds, 1 against Sunderland, clean sheet against West Ham, clean sheet against Inter. It's more about the quality of chance that we're conceding. We're not conceding that many gilt-edged chances. And I think that's a big difference. Leeds were cut open really once. You know, when they scored their second, we were really cut open big time for that. Other than that, they never really, you know, there were our own mistakes, you know, corner and the penalty, you know. So I think it's more about that. I think, yes, you've got the players who are available to you. So how can you make that 12, 13, 14 players defensively solid so that one goal is got to be enough? Sorry. Yeah, that's my phone. I think I've just put it away.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's been the way they've looked at it for the last few weeks is stop conceding, give yourself a chance to say that if you score 1, it's going to be enough. And Chris is probably right as well. It's get over this hump for the next until we start getting players back. Get to January and see what business we can do, and look to see what's possible for the second half of the season. I don't think this is going to be set in stone, but I said after the Inter game, it's nice to have the choice. It's nice to have the option to be able to go into a game and say, look, okay, I can trust this lot to play a 4-4-2 diamond if need be. I can do it in game if we need to shut up shop, or if we need to hold possession, we can drop Curtis Jones into a back 3 and manage possession in that way. I don't think you'll look to defend from that position, but I think you could look to retain the ball for 15, 20-minute spells and manage games once you get into a lead. And that's, I think, one of the things. Even though we only had 50% possession against Inter Milan, it felt like it was secure possession. You know, it felt like there was very low risk. And yeah, it was it was 2 top sides. You're never going to have end-to-end chances at both ends in games like that. It doesn't happen very often. You know, normally those games are cagey and
it was your standard Euro. Standard Euro. I think it was a standard Euro away, which Liverpool I thought approached correctly and got the result from. I think too much is made about it wasn't the most exciting game and things like that. Thinking like most games away.
We don't need excitement right now.
But also, most games away in Europe are more like that. You know, if you play sensibly, they tend to just be those sort of affairs. So, and also, like you said, we've been involved in far too many classics this year. You know,
I've said it before. I would love just like a nice.
What did I tell you, lot? What did I tell you, lot? At the start of the season, what did I tell you, lot? I told
were
you.
right. You did say
You said it was great, and all the signs were spot on, and it was brilliant.
Lying sack of shit. You absolute
No,
liar.
you even admitted on
Someone
transfer
clip-
deadline day that you
someone
thought it
clip
was
us up,
great.
It's fine.
Absolute liar.
Absolute truth. You even said it on the pod.
Horrible.
So before we get to kind of the elephant in the room that is Mo Salah, I want to throw out a few more stats at you.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about that Inter game being a real balance of possession and us kind of ceding a little bit of possession to Inter. When I was looking at kind of our stats overall, one of the things that stood out like a sore thumb was how much possession we are having in games. 10 to, sometimes 15% more possession than, most of the teams. So you're talking, 10% more possession than like a Manchester City. So we are being gifted possession. And there was a quote in our post-match that stood out to me. It was someone that was saying, make it make sense. Why are we winning against an Arsenal, or why are we winning against an Inter? Why are we winning against a Villa? One of the things that got pointed out to me today was, I'm going to come back to this long ball rate, which we know is a big problem. And it's my favorite player, as everyone knows, who's not actually my favorite player, but it's a running joke, is Van Hecke and his ability to play long balls. So in the games that we've won, so let's say Arsenal, Madrid, and Inter, the long ball success rate was 10% for Arsenal, 7% for Real Madrid, and 6% for Inter. Compare that to some of the games that we probably should have won. So Brentford, 20%. Forest, 27%. PSV, 20%, up from their average of 11%. So they played to us in that scenario. So part of the whole, why are we losing against some teams and not others? This is just a part of it. It is not the only reason. You could talk about the team being able to get up for bigger games. You could talk about, underestimating smaller teams. There are lots of little different things, but
I don't think we're clinical in either box as well. I think that's a big thing.
I think so too. But Kev, I'll come to you first. How do we deal with Brighton's long balls? Because we know that they are going to play them. It is one of their tactics. There was an entire Athletic article written about how that was one of their strengths. It's not their primary modus operandi, but against certain teams, specifically teams that have a lot of possession, they choose this tactic quite a bit. And it's Van Hecke that's the one that instigates it.
Well, you do what sides do with us against Ibu. You stand on it. You stand on Van Hecke and you don't allow him an easy pass, first and foremost. You force the ball through the other players. Second of all, you trust Ibu Konate and Virgil van Dijk to win their battles in the air against Danny Welbeck. That should be not a problem. The problem comes with the second ball. It's almost as if Brighton, and when Van Hecke plays the ball, they're not a big side. They anticipate losing the header. And they play as if, right, we're going to put a ball up here. We know that Danny Welbeck, odds are, isn't going to win it. But we're going to be the first ones to react to where the ball is going to go. So they will have analysed, where does Konate like to head the ball? Where does Virgil like to head the ball? And they'll look to pack that area to win the second ball. So if they're going to go down that road, you have to surround the areas around in midfield to make sure that you're aggressive. And I wouldn't say drop, but anticipate where Brighton want to play. Brighton want to play in that middle to final third. How they get there is up to them. And if they choose to go direct, 1 in 4 passes out from the back, they're not going to go with their keeper. They're going to look to draw you in to the press and then look to go. They'll try to make us vacate the midfield to go and get someone in with Welbeck to win the second ball. And that's what we have to be alive to. You have to anticipate it. Gravenberch is going to be key to that. Gravenberch and probably Jones. And Szoboszlai to an extent, because kind of like what I said against Inter Milan. Inter Milan were always going to play out from the back. They don't go direct. So you can organise the press against them. if Brighton are going to be that kind of direct side, stick someone on Van Hecke and just drop. You don't have to defend from the halfway line, but let them bring it out. Force them to do something they don't want to do. Force them to bring it through the thirds. And if they start doing that, then you can defend from there. There's nothing wrong with winning the ball in the middle of midfield and looking to slip a pass in to Isak or Ekitike, who might be on the turn. You know, it's just a different way of approaching it. And we have to be clever with it because we haven't been. When sides have been direct, we've tried to, it's almost like we're not changing. We're Liverpool. We're going to force them to play our way. And you end up pressing a side who are going long. And you watch the ball go over your head, and five of you, even six of you at times, are taken out of it completely with one pass. It's stupid and it's arrogant to think that you can allow your back four and probably one City midfielder to do everything. Look what Manchester United did. Manchester United did it. They went direct and they never looked to flick a header on once. They looked to head it back into the oncoming midfielders to then play a pass forward. You know, and that's been the key to unlocking us. And it's all well and good us having possession. And sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's patient. But possession for the sake of possession is no good either. So, yes, you want to have the ball and you want to be able to draw sides out to look to create space, but you have to be a bit clever in how you use the ball as well. I think from a defensive point of view, we just have to be aware of the second balls, and we have to win those battles. That's where we will get our success in turning them around. You know, and force them into, we're not going to take that risk because it's hurting us. And if they get into that mindset, Van Hecke stops playing that pass. He looks to play out through the wings and into midfield that way. And that we're okay with that.
Okay, so Kev gives us the answer to Van Hecke. Chris, I'm going to ask you one more question tactically before we move on to Mo Salah. In our intergame, we saw a much, much higher press than we have seen in probably months from this team. Part of that is down to the personnel, but part of that is obviously a directive from Slot himself. You know, obviously Inter tends to play against teams that sit back a little bit more, so they're not necessarily used to the high press, so it was very effective against them. Do you think that we will see more of that in this game? Because, you know, go back to Sunderland, there was no press at all. Go back to Leeds, the press wasn't quite right. Inter, I think, is the first time that we've seen a press that looks cohesive, where it's more than two players, where there's the correct triggers. Are you looking for that again? Do you want to see that again? And did you like what you saw?
I think you do want to see that again, because if you think before the win against Inter, or other wins against Madrid and against Aston Villa, we did exactly that. Pressed really high to put them under pressure, and it created chances from there. What we have stopped doing, I think the City game probably gave us a bit of a shock, was we sort of pressed high against City, but then we had no energy or effort to get back and let ourselves a bit of a halfway house, which is why I think you saw the Sunderland game where it was complete, don't want to lose anything. So I think at home, I think you have to press high. I think the players we've got, I think it suits them best if we're pressing high. And I think with this 4-4-2 diamond, it does at least give us a bit more protection for transitions, which is a thing we've been rubbish at all season. Let's be honest, we've been getting killed in the transitions all season. So I think they should. I think if we start slow and lethargic, I kind of feel that plays into Brighton's hands a little bit, because they'll be happy with that. A slow start, let them stand there, pick passes out, pick balls out. I think that'll make life easy for them. So I think you've got to press them. Plus, look, Lewis Dunk's not getting any younger. He is not going to want someone pressing him high up. And if he does, it'll go very route one, which is either out for a throw-in or just down the centre-back's throat. So play against that. You've got Matt Weaver, who's a centre mid, playing right back. Put the pressure on him, I would say.
Okay. So we've stalled a little bit. I think it's time to kind of get to the big question. So we haven't heard Slot's press conference, Kev, yet. We'll hear from him tomorrow. But hypothetically speaking, where do you stand on Mo Salah being involved this weekend? So far we have not heard anything about apologies. We've heard that there were conversations that happened today. Those have not been leaked to the public, which I think is a good thing. But we've had no, social media posts from Mo Salah outside of, him sitting on a park bench and working out in his home gym. We really haven't heard anything from the club itself other than, we don't want to sell Mo Salah. We're surprised by the how quickly this kind of deteriorated for Mo Salah, and we have no intention of selling him. But where do you stand on the Mo Salah issue? Are you including him? Are you not including him? Does he sit on the bench? Does he sit behind the bench? And do you think this could possibly be his last game for Liverpool?
I don't think it's going to be his last game. I don't think he'd be involved. I think if you put him on the bench, it's the worst of all outcomes, because every time he stands up, sits down, the crowd is going to be, half the crowd's going to be up, half the crowd's going to be like, what's he doing here? Why are we accepting it? I think it's going to split everyone down the middle. And I know apparently he trained the other day before the Inter game.
He trained privately. He was given permission to train privately at the AXA.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to his press conference. I'd be very surprised if he's involved. I'd be very surprised. If it was down to me, he wouldn't be involved. Purely and simply because it's just an added distraction that we don't need.
If he's not involving him, where does he go? Does he show up and sit behind the players' bench?
Go and sit behind the bench with the rest of the players.
Right.
You go and sit behind the players with the rest of you go and sit in the bench behind the rest of the players. You're no different to anyone else. If you're not selected, you go and sit with the rest of the players behind the bench. That's what's expected of you. There's a reason why he's not been selected, and it's his own petulance that's brought him to this situation. If he refuses to apologize, that's on him. That's his lookout. He's a grown adult. He can do what he likes. But I think the longer this drags out, the more likely it is that he's going to be sold. And it'll just be a sad way for his time at Liverpool to end. But it doesn't tarnish his legacy. Not for me. But it leaves it reeks. I said it to you guys the other night. It reeks of Coutinho with a bad back. It just doesn't sit right. I don't think this is about 3 games not being selected. I think there's a lot more to it than this. Eventually, it'll drip out, but it feels like there's more to what is already out there in public. Because all that's out there in public at the minute is what one person has said. Everyone else is trying to analyze it to the nth degree, us included. But the club haven't said anything. Arne Slot has literally reacted to Salah's interview, and he's done what any boss would do in that situation when you badmouth a company. You're suspended on full pay. We'll go and talk to you when we come back. Basically you're suspended until we have time to sit down and deal with you. If you went and talked about a company that you worked for in the way that he did, if someone on the shop floor went and talked about a manager like that and threw around baseless accusations with no substance to it whatsoever, other than what your feelings are, there are going to be repercussions. Alisson said it best. He's free to say whatever he likes, air whatever grievances you want, but you're not free for the consequences of your actions. And if the consequences of your actions are that you sit down with the management of the football club for supposedly 2 or 3 hours today, and you haven't come to a resolution, then go off to AFCON, represent your country, do your best, cool down, come back in January when this is all done, and we'll sit down and have another conversation, decide what you want to do from there. But the one thing he can't do is, if he doesn't get selected, goes off to AFCON, don't mention Liverpool when you're away. Don't talk about it. If you have any ambition or feeling that you want to come back and play for the club, go away and you're playing for Egypt. You shut your mouth. You play for Egypt, you talk about Egypt, you talk about the football that's happening in front of you, not the shit show that you've caused behind you.
So It's interesting because there's lots of people in the chat that are saying he's in Saudi come January. Saudi will take him in January. That's where he's going. Can
I just say one thing on that? I watched an interview tonight, a few interviews tonight on Sky about it was at a conference that is being held in Saudi Arabia, and there was an owner of one of the Saudi clubs specifically interviewed about this, and he made the point of addressing what Salah has done, saying he's not a team player, he's 33 years of age, he's clearly on the decline, he's on a long contract with big money. Why would we be interested in him now? And he made the point of saying it's all about him. It's not about the team. And I'm like, hang on, he's the owner. I think he was one of the owners, not the owner of Al Hilal, of one of the, because he was very diplomatic in what he said. It was one of the other mid-tier clubs. Basically, I think he was still one of the Saudi-owned clubs, but he was like, "Nah, we ain't having that."
So let me put this in perspective because I didn't realize this until today. So I did a little bit of a deep dive onto maybe where Salah could go if Salah left, which I don't want to see, but just where he could go. And one of the things that we haven't discussed on this channel is the fact that whether it's Al Hilal or Al Ittihad, which are the two kind of top teams that are really competing for honors in that league, neither of them have a spot available in their squad. Currently, all of their kind of foreign player spots are taken. So you have Benzema, who is taking a place at 1, which is Al Ittihad, and then you have another player who's Brazilian winger Malcolm, who's taking the place at Al Hilal. So
hasn't Benzema just left though?
No, he is still there, but he's out of contract, in the summer.
Yeah.
So making a move in the summer makes a lot of sense to go there, but they do not have space to take them January.
Talk is Darwin is on his way back to South America as well.
Yeah, Darwin is not happy where he's at. But neither of those two teams, which are the ones that you would think he would move to, can bring him in. They just don't have space. They can't currently, unless they sell someone massive, they can't do it. And they also don't have the financial flexibility to do it. There is another alternative called Al Qasida, which I don't really know anything about, that have space in their squad. They would like to sign Salah, but they don't even have a stadium right now. They're going to move into a new stadium next year, but they are sort of an underdog. So does Salah want to move to a club that's an underdog? He's better off kind of staying in the Liverpool team. And then there's the question of, does he move to the MLS? And so I dug a little bit deeper into the MLS. And you had the kind of initial idea of, MLS San Diego is owned by Mansour. There's an Egypt connection there. Yeah. Surely that would make sense. Mansour has come out and said that's highly unlikely. They don't want to allocate the funds. They don't want to use that designated player spot for him. Inter Miami, full of superstars, are not interested. They have come out and said they are not interested in pursuing a deal for Salah. The only other option that's popped up is the Chicago Fire, who made an attempt to sign Salah before he signed his contract in April. So he had the opportunity to sign with them already, and he turned them down. So all of these things play a role into where Salah can go. And so I just wanted to throw that out as a little bit of context, because I think it's important. A lot of us are like, oh, he's surely going to go here. He's surely going to go here. Italy can't afford him. France can't afford him. Germany certainly can't afford him. So unless he's trying to break his contract with the club so that he can move on a free,
which isn't going to happen.
None of these moves are happening. None of these moves are happening. So eventually we're going to have to come to some sort of terms with Mo Salah, unless he chooses to kick up so much of a fuss that, that needs to be revisited. So that's my backstory. Chris, I'm going to ask you the same question. What would you do with Mo Salah this weekend?
I don't think he's even in the stadium. I think if they haven't found a resolution, the fact nothing's come out says to me there isn't a resolution. I think it's like Kev. He'll be allowed to go. He'll be just told, go to AFCON, enjoy, try and win it with your country, and we'll review it when you get back. The reason I don't think he'll be in the stadium, I think it wouldn't surprise if the club just says, "Look, it's a distraction we don't need," which will be anytime if there's a goal conceded or a missed chance, all the cameras on this. It'll be what's going on with this. It'd be easy for Slot to say tomorrow he's not selected, he's not in the squad. We'll see him at Anfield when he comes back from AFCON. Wish him luck at AFCON, and leave it at that. And then that's up to him.
Chris, not Chris. Kev, do you want to answer this question?
Yeah, really easily.
Why would you let a player go on a free?
It's not even that. Listen, last season he scored he had one of his best seasons, goals and assists for the club. He was this time last year angling for a new deal, and this time last year you'd be rightly looking to tie him down. Nobody saw this drop off coming. Nobody, and I don't care what anyone says. The drop off that we've seen from him this season, in terms of he's actually technically running more, if you actually look at it, but his output is way down. And the luxury that you have in a forward player, allowing him the luxury of, look, when he comes back to defend, it's token gestures. You know, sometimes he puts an effort in, but the majority of it, he's just standing.
It's actually more harm than good a lot of times.
But on the attack, you need him to be able to beat fullbacks. You need him to be able to bring other players into the game. You need him to be able to provide assists and goals. And when he's not doing the latter, he's a liability. And the reason why the club gave him a contract is pure and simple. On the strength of what he's done, you give him the benefit of doubt. The club, for a long time, had a real thing about giving players of his age 1 year rolling deals. They broke their stance on it with Jordan Henderson. And look, they recouped.
And that backfired.
Well, it didn't because they recouped good money for him.
I mean, that's fair.
You know, and the thing is with Mo Salah, they're probably going to do the same. I think even if he hit the highs of last season, they'd have probably given him an extension for a year. But I think the idea always was to recoup a fee with a year to go. You know, so that it protects the club, it protects the player, and it gives you the opportunity to sign someone when you need to, not when you have to. And unfortunately, we're at the situation now where he isn't performing. He has kicked up this stink that I don't think any of us really saw coming. I thought he was going to be more professional than this.
Yeah, he's always described as a model professional.
Yeah. And look, for a physical point of view, he is. Someone else made the point earlier on, and I just want to come back to it a sec. It was Mitch. I'm just going to bring up Mitch's comment there because I want to get this straight. It's wild that people want or would like Salah to leave in January. Mitch, it's not like that, all right? It's literally a case of look at where we are now. Look at where we are with Mo Salah, the player, and what he's said. What he's come out and done in that interview, and I don't buy the shit with what Steven Gerrard says that it was emotional. It wasn't. If you go and listen to it, it wasn't emotional. This was 20 minutes after the game where he went in, had a shower, got changed.
He changed his clothes.
Yeah, got changed, come back out, and decided in that time, I'm going to do this, and he did it. That wasn't the case. They caught him in the mix zone as he was coming down the tunnel and he's fuming. It's like, no, he's gone. He saw what happened on the pitch. He's gone into the shower. He's been by himself. He's got changed. He's come out and he's decided that now is the moment. And he can say what he likes. Look, he's earned the privilege to be able to say what he likes. He hasn't earned the freedom from the responsibility of dealing with what he said. And what he said about being thrown under a bus and someone wants to get rid of me at the club, even if it's true, you don't say that loud. You don't say that publicly. You just fucking don't. There's certain things that you can think privately, but as a professional athlete on 400 grand a week at a top club in a senior position,
their highest paid player ever.
Yeah,
you're coming out and you're basically slandering the club. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Whether it's true or not.
Exactly. You can always say, look, privately, you can go and air your views. You can shout and bawl and bitch and moan and do what you like. and you can turn around and stamp your feet and say, look, I want to get out of here. I'm not happy. I want to move. Sort of move the best way you can. I'll be quiet, but when I leave, I'll leave.
Yeah.
And I won't be.
But also, I don't get the let him leave on a free saying we're not going to play him or whatever the reason is. Ultimately, if Salah wants to go, and like I said, it's still an if because we don't know if he does. But if he wants to leave, the club go to his agent. That's fine. Find the club. Here's the price we're willing to take. If he doesn't hit that price, he's not going. And trust me, Salah will go. Salah will be. I don't think Salah would sit there. I don't think Salah would sit there going, "I was collecting £400 a week wages." Eventually, there will be a climb down at some point, and I think the club know that as well.
You also have to consider all of Mo Salah's brand deals that are outside of just playing, and the fact that we think moving to Saudi would be a no-brainer. Those brand deals don't necessarily travel with him.
No.
And there's people that are talking about, could he go over to the United States before the World Cup? When I say like the interest is a sliver of what it is in the Premier League. If anything, it's the opposite. It's America turning to the Premier League. That's where the money is. So if Mo Salah wants to make money, even if he's sitting on the bench, he's going to make more money doing it at Liverpool. No matter where you look, he's going to make the most money at Liverpool at this point in time, given what's available in Saudi. So for me, this is very much a pride issue with Mo Salah. I mean, it's 303 games that he has gone since being benched for 3 games. So this is something that I think that this is him needing to sit in the mirror and have a conversation with himself and understand, I can't outrun Father Time. And I need to be a bigger person at this point in time. And that does not mean I want to kick Mo Salah out of this club. I love Mo Salah. I love him. He is a true 100% bona fide legend of this club. And I think every single person here agrees with that. But that still doesn't give you the right to do what he does. Like, you don't have carte blanche just because you're a legend. And that goes for anyone. That goes for King Kenny. You wouldn't expect him to do these things either. That goes for Gerrard. That goes for the players that are, the ones that are literally cast in bronze.
Yeah.
You still don't get carte blanche to do that.
There's a line in the sand you don't cross. And
Exactly.
Real Talk made the point there, saying the comments are taken, they're not as bad as what you think. It's not as bad as Eric Cantona kicking someone in the head. No. But I'll tell you what, it's just one of those things. With me, it's just a personal thing. Look, you just don't do it. You don't do it. But
you know what? If it is taken out of context. So Mo Salah is reading these things. His agent is reading all of these reactions. He is seeing that. I don't know what he expected. I don't know what the team expected in terms of, people are going to side with me. Fans are going to side with me. Pundits are going to side with me. That's not happening across the board for Mo Salah. Like, I'm sure that there are subsets of the internet and fans from Egypt and from the African continent that are very much in Mo Salah's camp. But the truth of the matter is that he's not getting sort of the unilateral support that he got, say, when he was looking for a new contract, when people were holding up banners saying, give Mo his dough, and everyone was really rooting for him. That's not happening. So he's going to have to come to terms with that. Like, he's going to have to understand that, and that's hard. That's hard for someone that kind of is ego driven. It's part of what makes him great. But all he has to do, and again, it's just my opinion, but having read all of this fallback, all Mo Salah has to do is come out and say, I'm sorry I let my emotions get the better of me. I'm sorry to the club that, this happened. And then the whole thing could go away.
I mean, look, the ideal hope is the club and Mo and the manager find a resolution. He goes off to AFCON, has a really good tournament, comes back revitalised, and helps Liverpool kick on second half of the season. That's the hope.
If he can find a way to come back from AFCON and rediscover his pace and rediscover his ability to beat a fullback and figure out how to pass a ball, well, great, delighted with life. But if none of those 3 things happen, then you can't have a luxury of a $400,000 a week player sat in your club, not good enough to start, and he's not good enough to start ahead of Dominic Szoboszlai, and he's not.
I do
Very
think that
important.
he's good enough to be involved for the rest of the season.
Yeah, off the bench.
And that's fine. That's fine. And whether it's off the bench, whether it's rotating, he would have played that Inter game.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
for
If
Leeds,
you look at that run of matches where he was upset, if he had just kept his mouth shut, he would have gotten the biggest game out of that bunch. And he would have gotten on in a Champions League stage. Basically, you know, his face he could have been the hero of that match if he wanted to. But he chose that moment, and he probably would have played this game as well. So it's again, maybe it's just perception. Maybe it's one of those things that we can see as an outsider looking in, and because he's in the middle of it, he can't see it. I don't know. But for what it's worth, my 2 cents is I don't want him involved, because I think that he becomes the storyline. And I think the biggest thing that came out of that Inter match is that the team can play without the storyline of Mo Salah. And that's what they're going to need to do for the next month and a half.
Well, you got to look at what are we trying to achieve on the pitch. And if you want to persist with this 4-3-3 or 4-2-4-2-2, there's a place for Salah if he play. I said this earlier in the season. If you're going to get him involved, you got to get him involved centrally, whether that's as one of the strikers or behind the striker.
He could be a 10.
You can't play him out wide because he doesn't have the pace to beat someone. All right. And it's clear as day he's out of the team on form. Szoboszlai is better.
Mm-hmm.
And Szoboszlai is better in that position because it allows you to get him and Wirtz into the same side. The flip side is you could, and I said this before, you could drop Gakpo, put Dominic off the left if Salah is in any kind of form. But to do that, he has to do the donkey work. He has to go the other way. He has to protect his fullback. He has to do the ugly side of the game as well. And
he can't stop doing it. So the thing that's kind of been highlighted is he'll do it when asked, but he won't kind of commit to it. Like, he'll end up kind of running, I don't know, a third of the way into our half, and then he'll pause.
Dan makes a point there. Let me just get this up a sec.
Of course.
All right, hang on a sec. A player like Salah will never accept the bench, while a more worker-type player takes his place like Szoboszlai. If he can't stay quiet for being benched for 3 games, how do you manage for half a season? That's down to the professionalism of the player and the fact that he's not getting in ahead of someone who works as hard as Dominic Szoboszlai, who's technically better in the position than Mo Salah is. Tells you everything you need to know. Szoboszlai will work back. He'll do the defensive work, and he'll get forward, and he'll create chances, and he'll score goals. So that's what you want out of someone who's playing in that right attacking midfielder role or right mid. You know, if we're going to go forward and not play with a right winger in a 4-3-3, we're going to look to try to play 2 strikers. Then your right mid has to be able to get up and down the pitch, has to provide service to the strikers, and has to defend.
So let me flip this on its head, right? So at the beginning of this season, we had signed Wirtz, and all of us kind of universally said, Dominic Szoboszlai is probably going to be the player that's going to be benched.
Yep.
All of us, pretty much universally. Dominic Szoboszlai decided he was going to fight for his place. He was going to work his ass off in a way that we have not seen so far. And he earned his place, not only in one position, but in about 4 different positions. Now, do I think that Salah has the engine of Szoboszlai? No. But Mo Salah can look at the exact scenario that Szoboszlai was faced with at the beginning of the season, where he was lined up to be on the bench, and he worked to earn his spot back. And not only did it earn it back in midfield, he earned it back at right mid. He earned it back at right defensive, whatever the fuck he was being used for. Mm-hmm. There were so many different things that he was showing, you know what? I may not be playing in my favored position. I may not, and Dominic Szoboszlai is a captain of his national team. I'm not saying he has the same pedigree of Mo Salah. I'm not saying that he has the same, history of performances that means that he should be allowed to play in his position. I'm just saying that in terms of attitude and in terms of what you want from an elite player, look at what Dominic Szoboszlai has done. And then, for example, also, Kev, you sent me an interview of Haaland. Haaland came out the other day And he was asked, was it by Shearer, I believe?
Yeah.
He said, what's your target for goals? And that part's not important, but Haaland came out and said, I don't set targets. All I know is that if I don't perform, I deserve to be replaced, or City will replace me, and that's okay. Those were his words.
That's the pressure he puts on himself to be able to perform week in, week out. And look, at the end of the day, for Haaland or any striker, they're judged on their goals. And ultimately, Isak is going to be judged on his goals.
Yep.
And Isak is in danger at the minute. I heard it mentioned by someone. He's in danger of becoming Torres that went to Chelsea. Big money signing, should have worked, and isn't working. It's not working at the minute. It's too early, really, for that. But he's going to be judged ultimately on goals. Mo Salah is and always will be a Liverpool legend, and the third highest goal scorer in the club's history. 250 goals is phenomenal. But this is probably the first time in his Liverpool career that I think he looks in the mirror and realizes that I can't do what I used to do. And I need help to be able to reinvent myself to be able to help this side. Mm-hmm. And in a way, it's up to Slot to find that way. But at the same time, he was dropped for a week. And he threw the baby out with the
7 days.
He threw the baby out with the bathwater on the strength of a week. It's not on. It just isn't. And for all of the stick that Carragher gets, Jamie Carragher, the player, so many managers tried to buy to replace him. So many of them tried to buy to replace him. He sharpened his elbows and he pushed them all out. And he played some over 700 games for the club. So at the end of the day, that's what you got to do. If you're going to be at a club like Liverpool, they're going to bring players. And it's the one thing that we never did. We never brought a player in to challenge Salah because we trusted him with his numbers. And it's probably a failure of the summer that we never brought in. And I admit I didn't think we were going to, we needed to. But maybe in hindsight, being 2020, they should have had the foresight to say, look, we have to address this. You have to bring someone in to challenge him.
Isn't that what Szoboszlai's doing right now?
I think I think that's more of a case of you've got Dominic Szoboszlai playing out of his skin. You have to get him into the team. You have Gravenberch as your sixth. He trusts McAllister on that left-hand side. And you have Jones. It's probably, you could make the case, Konate should be dropped on form. Gakpo should be dropped on form. There isn't anyone behind them to take their place. You have someone in Szoboszlai to challenge Mo Salah. But I think it's more of an accident that Szoboszlai is there to challenge him rather than design. You know what I mean? It's like, look, yeah, he has played on the right wing or the right side of an attack in his early club career. He's done it on the left. He's done it through the middle for Hungary, where he's played as a 10. He's got that versatility about him where he's just really good at everything he does. He can play a right back and do a job. He's not the best right back in the world, but he'll get up and down, he'll do a job for you. Above all the positions he can play, that's probably his worst one, but he won't stink the gaff out. And I think the problem that we have with Mo at the minute is if he starts, even if all this wasn't happening, there were real clamours for him to be pushed, to be subbed or to be pulled out of the starting lineup before all the noise. The fact that he was dropped for the West Ham game, we all said, about time. It's about time we tried to do something different. And since we've done it, we haven't lost.
We haven't lost, and I mean, it's hard. It's hard because, there are people in the chat that are talking about, it's not fair on Mo Salah in the sense that he's playing with different players. He's playing with different combinations and things like that. But, I have to kind of counter that argument with the concept that Slot has, over the course of this season, interchanged numerous players in this team. And I've said this to you. I've said this to Chris. We have tried to make Salah work. We have tried to substitute other players to keep Salah in this team. So whether that be Frimpong, Bradley, Szoboszlai at right back, whether that be Gakpo putting Wirtz out on the left wing, which is not his natural position, whether that's McAllister or Jones rotating in the midfield, there have been players that have been benched kind of all with the intention of fitting Mo Salah into this team. And I think sort of just in a general merry-go-round, Slot just decided, you know what, I've tried everything else. It's just time to try Mo Salah. I don't think it was personal. I don't think it was a slight on his legacy. I think it was just one of those things where he was literally fighting for his job, which is something that we should still say and caveat that is still happening. Slot is still fighting for his job. 100%. He is not safe by any means. And I don't want anyone to kind of assume that we are all sitting here saying, well, this makes Slot look, fantastic. That's not the case. But Slot basically had to go through every single option in his toolkit to exhaust every option before he got fired. He was on the brink of getting fired. And to drop Mo Salah is a really big fucking deal. And he doesn't want to do that. So he did this as a last-ditch effort to save this team, to save the club, and to put a run of wins together. And the fact that it worked is unfortunately to Mo Salah's detriment. And it's frustrating. I get it. Some people have said it gives Slot more time. We can kind of discuss that later. But I just think that the idea that Mo Salah is above being rotated is a really kind of fraught thing to do with your club. Because once you start feeling like certain players are above reproach, then you get into Manchester United territory.
Yeah, you can't do that.
I don't think so.
No, you can't. It's not on. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we are where we are now. The squad that's available is what's available, and you have to find a way to get the best out of them to manage the Brighton game and the games that come on the back of it. The fact is, and Emmett makes the point here, the next 2 weeks are huge for Isak. 3 games in a week, with international breaks, not great for adapting players to a new team. The next 2 weeks are full weeks of training and preparing.
I'm excited for the next 2 weeks. I think that it's going to be great for the team to get 7 days off in between matches. It's been a long time.
Yeah. But they have to make use of it. And
absolutely. No excuses. Like they have the time on the pitch. This is the time.
Make no mistake, Arne Slot is 100% fighting for his job.
Yeah, he's not safe.
No. And the thing is, there are options out there. There might not be the options that people want or the options that people might think. But Liverpool Football Club is one of the most prestigious jobs in world football. Don't tell me that managers wouldn't tear their...
It doesn't need to be a manager that's out of the job.
Exactly.
Managers will walk from where they are. Before we go, Chris, you're over there. I feel like we haven't touch base.
Hey, Chris.
For a minute.
How you doing, buddy?
Ignore you.
That's all right. I'll leave you to it.
I'm going to give you first run at predictions and goal scorers for this particular match. And while we're doing that, I'm gonna compliment you on your nice haircut because we haven't touched base in a little while. So I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'll go 2-1 Isak, Ekitike, and I think Welbeck will score for them.
Okay. Kev, same question.
Yeah, I think we'll have to come from behind. I think they'll score first.
Don't say that, Kev.
No, I think they'll score first. I think it's one of those things that with Brighton, you look at the last 4 games, I said it earlier, the side who scores first generally loses. And look, they do score goals. They'll have a right goal, and they've got players across their front line who can score. I just think they'll give us chances. I really would. I'd love to see Wirtz get off the mark. I'll go 3-1. Wirtz, Virgil, and Szoboszlai.
Okay. I struggle with the idea of keeping a clean sheet against Brighton.
I struggle with keeping a clean sheet ever. So they're always quite surprised when they come along.
That being said, our XG kind of outside of the Ibu Konate shitstorm.
It's better.
It's below 1. It's actually quite good. So I'm going to kind of hope for the best here. And I'm going to say we're going to concede 1 and score 2 goals. So 2-1 to Liverpool. I agree with Welbeck. I think he's going to bully Konate. That's ambitious,
Mitch, do you know what?
You know what? That would shut up the critic.
Salah
if he wants to say something.
But what he's not said, though,
pitch,
he hasn't said who's the Salah hat-trick for.
Well, we have the, we have listen, we have the press conference tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock UK time. Arne Slot will be questioned on it. And this is kind of the one thing about doing a preview for a game before the press conference. We don't know if anyone's carrying knocks. We don't know who's available. There's every chance Frimpong might be on the bench. I
don't think he's going to be ready for another week or so.
I don't either, but you don't.
Well, you might have like an Endo back on the bench because he was very non-committal on what the injury was.
Yeah, we don't know. Actually, Madge makes a great point there. Curtis is due a goal. He had that curler the other day. Hit the crossbar.
The one that hit the bar? That was a good effort. That was very shady Everton.
Yeah, he had the one against Leeds as well. Yeah, Leeds and Inter, he both had good chances.
I expect him to be a pretty integral part of this team this weekend.
Yeah, I think so.
If anyone wants to throw their... Thank you, Mitch. I appreciate that. If anyone else wants to throw their predictions, and we've got Oshin saying 2-1 Ekitike, McAllister, and Matoma for them. We've got Pierce saying 4-1. The hat trick is ambitious from Mitch. We've got Tony saying Brighton or shite 3-0 to us. I like your spirit.
I don't know if
they're shite.
You got the flip side of that. Mark saying we're not beating Brighton; they are fresh. I'll tell you one thing:
full week, and that is something to consider.
It does make a difference, and you often see it with sides who play in Europe. When it comes to the game at the weekend, they suffer. I don't know what tonight's results in Europe. I know Crystal Palace were 3-0 up against Shamrock Rovers at one time. But I don't know how they got on.
So I can tell you
quite a few changes though in that Palace side.
Yeah. And the same with Villa. I don't know what Villa are doing tonight.
So Villa, let me see. We had Villa win 2-0 or 2-1 against Basel. We had Forest win 2-1 against Utrecht. And then I think Palace were comfortable.
3-0.
Where's Palace? 3-0 against Shelbourne. So
it wasn't even like a big travel.
All of the Premier League teams won today.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think it's been a good week all up, really, for the Premier League sides in Europe.
Arsenal remain unbeaten in the Champions League. City had a very good performance.
Yeah, sorry, Steve shows. Yeah.
Madrid.
I think it was only Chelsea. I think Chelsea
did lose. Chelsea surprisingly lost against Atalanta. They were up and then they kind of collapsed. So they were the ones that kind of surprised everyone. Other than that,
Atalanta are 5th in the Champions League now, on the quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're at the stage now. It's the groups are starting to make a bit of sense. It's there's gaps starting to open up in them, but I don't think there's another Champions. It's down to the last year's January now, isn't it?
Yeah, January.
Yeah, I think Salah could be back for Marseille if he's back. Well, he could be back for Marseille.
I think he's back even if he got to the final. I think.
Yeah, and I don't think Egypt is going to get to the final. I'm sorry if there's any Egyptian fans.
AFCON is still AFCON is still the 18th of Jan. So
we have a good chunk of time. Before we go, because we are kind of over our allotted time, I'm going to go over the games this weekend because there are a few and I just kind of want to highlight them. But before we do that, I just want to point out our Patreon link, which is that direction. I always get this wrong because it's mirrored. Our Patreon show is available to anyone that wants to subscribe. We have basically about the same amount of shows that we show on YouTube. We match that on Patreon. So we try to kind of give the same free shows as, contributor shows, just to make sure everyone has the ability to watch this no matter what their kind of economic status is. But on Patreon, we have the ability to pull clips and do things that we can't do on YouTube. So, whether that's watching direct replays of games. Last night, we watched a rerun of the 2002 World Cup. Last night, we also had the show that Gav and I do, which is called Ref Watch, where basically we tear apart all of the bad decisions across the board, whether it's in the Premier League or in the Champions League. So if any of that sounds like it's kind of interesting to you, we do have a special offer for this month where if you join by December 22nd, I believe, you're entered for 6 months free. So you not only get access to our Patreon, you get access to our Telegram group, which is a chat group where all three of us are involved, along with all of our members, it's just amazing. It's really fun. It's amazing. It's probably my favorite part about this whole channel. And we also have the ability to kind of send you guys articles and newsletters. So we really are stepping it up recently to just give you guys as much bang for your buck. It's about the price of a coffee. And we really are trying to kind of shove as much value in there as we can. So with that, that's an option for you. If you choose to, you are not forced to. Before we go, because Davey's in the chat, I would be remiss if I did not touch upon the games this weekend. So I'm going to start with Saturday. Davey, you can wait a moment because we will talk about your big game. So we've got early morning games for Liverpool Brighton. And then we have Chelsea Everton, which is the other 10 o'clock game.
Are we doing predictions or are we just...
No,
just kind of, general thoughts. If there's anything that stands out for you. We have Burnley Fulham, which is going to be pretty dull. And then we have Arsenal Wolves, which is basically a foregone conclusion. So I'm just going to ask you about Chelsea Everton on Saturday.
It's a big game for Maresca.
Yeah,
he needs something, doesn't he?
He needs something. Yeah, there's a lot of noise coming out about his job now.
Wasn't he like the savior 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, but football is fickle, and we've seen it ourselves. Look, a week is a long time in football. A fortnight is a lifetime. But Everton aren't in bad form, and they're the kind of top of the who needs them list when you're going into a game when you have to try to get something, and Chelsea do have to try to get something out of this, especially at home. It wouldn't surprise me if Everton get something out of this.
Okay. So moving on to Sunday.
Sunday's got loads of great games.
Some juicy games. So let's start at the early morning games. For me, it's early morning. It's 9 o'clock for me. So it's a little later for you guys. So lunchtime games for you. Or as Brian would say, tea time games for you. So we'll start with Crystal Palace against City. So that's the early game. And then we also have Forest against Spurs. So I think both of those honestly look like tasty games to me. What do you guys feel about that?
I think so. I think it's how Palace react to the 3 games a week and City having the extra 24 hours. At least, I mean, neither have had particularly far to travel. I can see Palace and Forest probably getting something in both their games, being the home sides. The fun one is the Northeast Derby.
Well, that's what comes next. So we have a kind of a cluster of early games. Maybe we should do our watch along Sunday. I'll have to talk to Gab about that because there are 4 games all at that kind of time slot because we also have West Ham against Villa, and then we have kind of the big one for JVT, Sunderland versus Newcastle. So that is definitely probably one that I'm going to be turning on. I feel like that'll be spicy.
Yeah, 100%. Look, time where derby is always tasty. I can't remember the last one, but it's at Sunderland. And look, Sunderland are a decent side at the minute. And it's far from a gimme that Newcastle are going to turn it over. They're going to have to turn up and play well. It'll be a really good game. I think that'll be fiery as all hell. I think that will be seriously fiery.
And I think Sunderland are pretty much, I mean, they're undefeated recently. Is that true? I feel like they are.
Sunderland's last 6 games is actually 1 win, 3 draws, and 2 losses. On the quiet.
Losses. Okay.
So on the quiet, Newcastle in better form, which caught me out, wasn't it? I thought it was the way around, but yes, Newcastle are in better form.
Sunderland have drawn against Arsenal, lost to Fulham, beaten Bournemouth, drew with us, and lost to City.
Okay.
So they've had tough run.
Tough run
of it.
They had those 3 games in a week. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and Newcastle, in fairness, are coming off 2 losses, 2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss.
Well, Davey, I'm going to root for you because you always are a good sport and you root for us. So in the spirit of fairness, I'm putting my vote with Newcastle.
Yeah, for the sake of Davey, I hope to get a win.
Yeah, Tyndall can go, off a bridge somewhere, but for the sake of Davey.
If I'm being honest, I've got a sneaky feeling for 2-1 Sunderland because it's at Sunderland. I know David T doesn't hear that. I also think it'd be about 3 red cards as well. I think there'll be. I think this could be a fight on the pitch. So,
this is one that if you're out there, if you're free on Sunday, I would definitely tune into this.
Yeah, that's me Sunday afternoon sorted. That one, I'm definitely gonna enjoy that game.
I think we should probably maybe move that watch along into that game, but we'll talk about that after.
Ooh. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's enough for us. We have definitely gone over our allotted time. That is my fault. Apologies. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us for the hour and almost 30 minutes that we've been here. I am very bad with time management, if you haven't kind of caught on to that already. Before we go, Chris, is there anything that you'd like to say before we head out?
Making it worse.
I am. I'm sorry. Please don't come at us with some sort of Twitter news.
Breaking news.
Yeah, middle finger to you, Chris.
Don't ever say that to me during the transfer shows. Anyway.
Oh yeah, transfer shows. No, nothing from me. Just subscribe, try the Patreon out. It's good fun. We don't talk about the women's.
It's good fun.
We're just not going to talk about the women's game tonight. We'll save that for another time.
Okay. Yeah, we're Liverpool across the border, not the shining stars that they used to be.
You think the men have problem?
Yeah, it's definitely Chris has the worst of both worlds, if that's a possibility.
At the moment, it is, yeah, but I'm sure both will come good.
All right, Kev. Before we go, any final thoughts?
Nah. Like, subscribe, leave comments in the shows, share them on your socials as well. But yeah, the Patreon. Click on the link.
Avo just came into the chat. He says, "Evening all. I'm late."
Avo.
On that note, have to press rewind. I'm sorry. We're not sticking around.
See you, buddy.
On that note, we're going to say goodnight. Avo, thanks for joining for the last 10 seconds of the show. We appreciate you as ever.
About as late as a Canati tackle, honestly.
Exactly. That's great. Let's finish on that. All right. Thanks, everyone. We will see you tomorrow. There's a random show tomorrow. So we're going to catch up on Siobhan and folks. If you know, you know. If you don't, click the Patreon. And we will be back with you on Saturday for our match reaction. So hope for the best, prepare for the worst, all that jazz. Up the Reds. See you guys later.